So to begin, Bismillah, we'll look at the author of the book. The author of the book, his name was Musa ibn Isa ibn Abdullah Sufan ibn Isa ibn Salama ibn Ubaid al-Qaddumi al-Nablusi al-Hanbali. So Musa ibn Isa, this is pretty much what he's known by, or al-Qaddumi. He was a great scholar. He was a jurist and a polymath, or someone of knowledge in various different subjects and sciences, very well versed. He was born in the year 1265 of the Hijra calendar in Kafr Qaddum, which is a village in Palestine. It's located west of Nablus. It's said that this is the place that Ibrahim alayhi salam circumcised himself at the age of 80. There's a hadith report in Sahih al-Bukhari wa Muslim about Ibrahim alayhi salam circumcising himself at that age, bil qadum or bil qaddum. There's a difference in how it's pronounced. So some of the scholars are of the opinion that it's a location, which is perhaps this city, because Ibrahim, he did go to this region, while the majority believe that the word bil qaddum is actually an instrument, something like an axe of sorts. So either way, two different opinions here. Some of them believe that it was in this city in which Ibrahim visited, and at the age of 80, believe it or not, circumcised himself. Anyway, this small village, Kafr Qaddum, is the birthplace of many great scholars of this particular school. Isa ibn Salama ibn Ubaid, he was a faqih, or a jurist. Ubaid ibn Ubaidullah, faqih, muhaddith, and historian. Ahmad ibn Ubaidullah, he was a faqih, scholar of Islamic law, and mufassir, scholar of the Quran. Muhammad ibn Ubaidullah, he was also a faqih, a historian, and a poet. Ahmad ibn Hussein, who was a faqih and was also considered a zahid. Musa ibn Isa, he was raised in a pious household, like many of the well-known scholars. That house was well known for knowledge and virtue, and at home is where he learned how to read and to write at a very young age. And then later, as he grew with some very, very lofty aspirations, he left to Damascus. This is much like our kids do when they go off to school or for university. During that time, it was something that happened a lot earlier. Now we're going away to school at 18, 19 when we graduate from high school. These children, if we could call them that, were really young men around the age of puberty, which could be anywhere between 10, 11, 12, up to 15 years of age. And so he left as a young man. He went to Damascus, which of course is still in the same general region. Damascus at the time was the central location for the Hanbali scholars and students of knowledge during that era. And then after that, he went to Sham, which was in the region as well, and then followed by a journey to Egypt. In Damascus, with the scholars there, he studied the Islamic law and its various different subjects. He studied hadith, he studied inheritance, he studied tawheed, or Islamic doctrine, he studied tafsir, he studied grammar, and also morphology, which is a science in the Arabic language. He had numerous teachers. I'll mention a couple of them. The most famous of his teachers was a great scholar and faqih. His name was Muhammad ibn Hassan ibn Umar. He was known as Ash-Shatti. He passed away in 1308. With this scholar, he studied fiqh and inheritance. Another one of his scholars, who was also a faqih, Ahmad ibn Hassan ibn Umar Ash-Shatti, who passed away in 1316. He studied tawheed, fiqh, and inheritance with him. The mufti of Sham, Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Ismail al-Manini al-Hanafi, who passed away in 1316. He studied tafsir, hadith, and grammar with him, and was given a general ijazah. So you can see he had already excelled at an early age in his Islamic studies. And you can also see that not only was he studying among the scholars of his own school, which was the Hanbali school, but he also learned from various other scholars of different schools, like the Imam here was Hanafi. Another teacher of his, the scholar in faqih, was also a musnid, someone that has many chains of narration for different things. His name was Salim ibn Yasin ibn Hamid al-Attar al-Shafi'i, scholar of the Shafi'i madhab, passed away in 1307 of the Hijra calendar. He studied with him tafsir, hadith, logic, and was also awarded a general ijaza or license. Another one of his teachers, a scholar of hadith and usul, fundamentals of Islamic law, and polymath, Bakr ibn Hamid ibn Ahmad al-Attar al-Shafi'i, who died in 1320. He learned from him logic, usul, hadith, and was awarded a general ijaza. So these ijazat are like degrees, if you will, equivalent to a level of mastery that is awarded to a student that shows, proficiency or mastery in the subject. So these are like multiple degrees, if you will, or certificates. And you can still find the ijazat being used today, that system. And there are various different types of ijazas or certificates or licenses. That is something to pay attention to when you are getting to know other scholars and students of knowledge and religious leaders, what types of ijazat that they have, if you're interested in knowing their credentials. The writer and the poet and Musnid Abdus Salam ibn Abdurrahim ibn Mustafa al-Shalti, who passed away in 1295, also awarded him a general multifaceted ijaza, which was a very big deal. He returned home to his village in 1290 of the Hijra calendar and ended up in Nablus. He went back home to Kafr Qaddum, and then Nablus, of course, we said was east of that small village. He ended up going back there, basically when everything settled, all was said and done. He was appointed a teacher with his cousin Sheikh Abdullah Sufan al-Qaddumi in the Jami' al-Salih al-Kabir school. So this was like the main mosque of that area, and they had a school in that mosque. Al-Jami', which is like the masjid that they pray the Jum'ah prayer in, it's the largest congregation. Typically they would also house institutes or schools, and so he was appointed a teacher there alongside his cousin. His cousin eventually left and went to the Hijaz, which is now in Saudi Arabia. The Hijaz is the area of the mountain range where Mecca and Medina are located, and his cousin went there. And when he left his cousin, our Sheikh Musa ibn Isa, as the sole teacher of Nablus, or that region. It was said that he did a superb job as a teacher and was extremely beneficial. His school actually became a destination for students in the region, much like one of the top universities of today. He was awarded an honorary title, Izmir, by the Ottoman Empire, and this was a distinction that was awarded to the scholars of that time. He was also recognized and praised by the scholars of his era. Imam al-Shalti said that he was a sheikh, he was a scholar, he was allama, he was a mufassir, scholar of the Quran, scholar of hadith, usuli, he was a grammarian, a polymath. He was well versed in many, many subjects. He studied a lot and had lofty aspirations. When the First World War broke out, he retired from teaching. This was like 1332 in the Hijra calendar. And this was basically because his school was closed because of the war. He did, however, continue to teach students privately, if you will, in his home and various other places until he passed away in 1336 at the age of 71. He was buried there in the region, Nablus, and he was buried next to the great Imam Safarini, who was one of the other well-known and famous Hanbali scholars. So that's just a brief look into the life of Imam Musa ibn Isa al-Qaddam.